So let's look at these decks. We've got Living End at the top of your screen versus this Timeless Goryo's deck. We've seen how explosive both of these decks can be. Who would you say is advantaged in game number one?
It's interesting. I think in general I would favor like the Living End deck, just because of how against like a traditional amulet deck, because of how powerful Living End the card is. Like to because the normal amulet deck has to put these creatures into play to do anything. With Spike's deck, he generates a lot of mana from non-creature sources. So I'm not necessarily sure that the same applies. So I'm going to be really interested to see how it plays out.
Yeah, like I think you hit the nail on the head. Also, I feel play draw dependent is going to be really key in this matchup. Like if we can get a big Living End down the turn before Spike goes off, it might be enough. But then if Spike manages to get an Emerald on the battlefield and turn it sideways, there's not going to be many permanents on the side for Arya. So we'll find out how this goes. At the minute, Arya's mana base is looking a little. I was going to say a little iffy, but that Oliphant was going to do a lot of work. But just drawing a Misty off the top is really going to help with that. Spike, ideally, with his most powerful turn one play, an Amulet of Vigor.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. There is a Besaju too in Arya's hand. So this is actually Arya has a lot of disruption in this opening hand. And so I really like that. I mean, it's usually with Living End, it's not so much the like early disruption, it's just the power of the card Living End. But here there's actually some pieces of interaction that really looks like it's going to set Spike back quite a bit.
Yeah, obviously that's where the power of this deck comes from, right? Being able to play a Lotus field and have it untap in the same turn. We're going to generate so much value. But even now with the Besaju, it is going to slightly ramp us. Obviously, not as much as an Amulet would. But then we get to go explore. Now we've got 4 mana. We'll be untapping next turn with potentially 5+ mana, being able to get one of these Goys down. Do we have a way to cast Living End at this turn? We do not. Just another Cycler off the top. When I play paper, I've played a lot of Living End. I used to play Living End back in the day when it was the Jund version. Then we moved to the mono blue version with As Foretold, and then the blue red version with As Foretold and the Electro Balance, I think it was. So I'm a big fan of these Living End decks.
Yeah, I really like this current like version of Living End. Maybe so like, and I love that it's the deck has just like thrived through all this time of modern. So yeah, I'm like I know a lot of people don't really love Living End, but I think it's like a cool deck to exist in modern, and
Oh
it's
no,
cool
yeah.
that it's good but not like too good.
Yeah, it's one of those, and it's like all graveyard synergy decks, right? It's really good until everybody turns up with the cards to beat it. If you want to not lose to Living End, there's a good chance with in modern vast range of cards with your sideboard plan, you can make sure you don't lose to Living End. You might lose to every other deck in the format, but you can really make sure that you don't. We've had Dredge in the past. Living End is now kind of the new Dredge. Game one, they're going to win. Game 2 and 3, they've got to you know try and eke out that win. Open deckless tournaments, though, huge advantage to the Living Index because they know what hate they've got to be sideboarding towards. Where closed deck, not as much.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the big thing in this particular game is that even though Arya had so much early disruption, there's no actual Living End. Like, there's no Shardless Agent or Violent Outburst. So now Spike gets to play Golos. Put a Saga into play. Maybe in 2 turns get an Amulet and use that Archmage's Charm to go crazy. I mean, I would say there's maybe like a one or 2 turn window here for Arya to find Living End.
Yeah, well, we've got a lot of land as well. Remember, a lot of the cards in our deck do cycle. So, well, that one doesn't, and that's not the one we want to be drawing. I'm not even sure we've got an actual way to hard cast that and get it on suspend. Sometimes we play some filter lands to do that. I'm going to have a little look at the deck list, and it's showing me nope, there is no way to hard cast a Living End in this deck. So that is a dead card that will be used for griefs if we do draw him in the future. But right now, everything going Spike's way. This is what I believe he needed this sort of early stumble from Arya.
Yep, and there's an Emrakul too. So it's at this point it's just about once that Saga goes off and gets an amulet, and then the Gardens copies it, and you have 2 amulets plus a Lotus Field plus a charm. Like Emrakul is going to come down, and then that's probably going to be game.
Yeah, I can't see. Well, yeah, I would be untapping with no permanence on the battlefield, basically. If there was an untapped life at 10 points, only one life, one swing with, of course, the big powerful 15. We're cycling. We're trying to look for something here. I'm not sure what that something needs to be. Salty, not going to be it, especially with we're tapped out with no blue mana in hand. Spike end of turn is going to cast one of the new cards. This Archmage's Charm, not Archmage's Charm, Archdruid's Charm. It's been doing a lot of work in a lot of different formats. A lot of people very hyped for it. See Spike brewing of it quite a lot. While we've got the extra mana, we might as well make ourselves a token.
Yeah, I mean, Spike maybe could almost get enough power, and maybe even could get enough power into play to win without the Emrakul. Um, just with how big that token's going to be. I don't think it'll
Uh,
quite be enough, but the Emrakul will definitely do it.
Spike's moving. The thing is, it's like when you're playing paper, right? Where people just speed up when they know they've got the win. The amount of speed that the Spike's doing these clicks in is telling me that he knows he has a win this turn, and it's going to involve a hard cast Emrakul. Why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't you? You know, why did you bring Stoneforge Mystics when you could be bringing Emrakuls and just hard cast them like this?
I mean,
Absolutely
which
beautiful.
Emrakul is the question, though?
To be fair, I have seen you cast your fair share of Emrakuls in the past, but that's going to be Inspiring Spike taking down game number 1. So we get to go to the sideboards for both these players, have a little look at what they'll be bringing in. Perfect knowledge, though, for Arya here. Knows exactly what sort of graveyard interaction Spike has, if any, because I'm not seeing any. Am I missing something here?
No, I'm not saying any either. So yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be. I mean, Spike is just relying on, like we saw in game one, the raw power of his deck that can go toe to toe. I mean, granted, Arya did not find a living end, but theoretically, Spike can win through one anyway. So I think that's just the hope here, because yeah, there is no graveyard hate. From Arya's side, it's more interesting because Arya has a lot of um, kind of, this is a situational interaction, things like brazen borrowers and stuff. So it's going to be an interesting decision to see, what comes in, what doesn't.
Well, the good thing about this is, our lovely producer being able to put both sideboards on the screen so we can all see at home. Now, get a good look at these opening hands from both players. Looks like a mulligan for Spike there. Still not a great opener, but I suppose it's semi-keepable. Where Arya keeping the one lander, but obviously we've got an Oliphant. This is kind of a new interaction of these living end decks, right? In the past, we used to have to play a lot more land. Now with the Lord of the Rings set coming out, giving us a few land cyclers. And it's not basic land, it's land type, means we can get our jewels, our survey lands, whatever we want to get. That's a real huge boon to these decks, right?
Yeah, it absolutely is. Like, you no longer have to deal with like horrible mana base, but you still get to put the creatures in the graveyard, and the creatures you're putting in the graveyard are actually like better. So yeah, it's a huge upgrade. Now this is like, Arya's hand here is very good, I would say. I mean, need to find another land, which there it is from the Waker of Waves, and now it's just a matter of, I mean, the probably can fire off this Grief. Uh, gonna wait till next turn to do it, and then yeah, it's gonna be a lot of power in play. I don't know if it's gonna be one shot levels of power, probably not, but it's gonna be pretty close.
Quick math. So 7 plus 6 plus 2. Quick math. What's that? 13-ish plus 13, 14, 15. No, I think you're right. I don't think it's one shot territory just yet. So Spike might still have another go out of it, but I can have a full look at his hand and able to take 2 cards this turn if we do fire off this Charlotte's Agent, or maybe we just go Violent Outburst in the upkeep. Which do you prefer?
I like Violent Outburst because then you have access to Force of Negation as well. So yeah, I like this play a lot more. I mean, yeah, maybe the Shardless Agent versus the other one was access to like maybe a slightly, 2 extra power in play,
Yeah.
but this to me gives you not only game-winning power on the board, but, you know, making sure that you're not vulnerable to something that Spike could find.
Yeah, and as you say, blue card plus force of negation in hand, so that can hit this wilds if it does come down. Because I believe we're probably going to get the amulet. There it is in play, and we're going to start the turn with an ancient stirrings. This card's had a lot of talk about it in the past, right? A lot of people thought this card was too powerful for modern back in the day. We obviously with the printing of Horizon sets, it's not as powerful as what it could be. We've got a far more powerful cards and ways to use them. As we're about to see, Spike generate 6 mana from double Amulet of Vigor on the battlefield and this Lotus field. Does he have to sacrifice both lands here though?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very
Oh,
all-in play, which I like, but this force of negation is going to be like really backbreaking here. I don't think I think this is basically game. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's just the clean scoop there for Spike going into a game number 3. All or nothing. I love to see it. And I also love game 3 of Magic, especially when the winner of this would advance to the winner's pod. Remember, players in every single pod, the first thing they need to try and do is win 2 matchups. Once you've got 2 wins to your name, then you need to try and do 2 pods. If you can do back-to-back pods, automatically get to our top 8, which will happen in a couple of weeks. If not, they got to do things the hard way, like yourself. You know what I mean? Realistically, I like it because we get to see more of you on screen and on camera, and I love hearing. You know, I'm a huge fan of the older Versus series. I'm literally trying to live my fanboy moment right now, being in the booth with you. So the fact that you lost is actually good for me and everybody watching at home because we want to see more of you.
Well, I'm glad that me losing is a good thing because I do a lot of it. There's one thing that you said that I didn't really understand, which was the win 2 matches part. Because what do you mean like win 2 matches? I
So
don't. I'm not familiar with it.
So the way that we do things here in the MTGO Masters is there's 4 of you in a pod, but there's 5 matches up to each week. So Eduardo, because he's already got his 2 wins, doesn't need to play anymore. Where these 2 players that we're seeing, I and Spike, are both 1 win and 1 loss. So the winner of this match will get their second win. Once they get that second win, bam. Now we're going to have Eduardo and the winner of this matchup are going to advance to the winners pod, where in the winners pod, they've actually got a loss to give. So they could lose that pod, become, let's say, the O2 person in that pod. It gives them our last chance pod. We'll be breaking it down week to week, telling you exactly up to date about everything that's going to be happening to keep everybody in the loop. But it's basically win 2 games before you lose 2 games, win 2 pods before you lose 2 pods. Where yourself, you know, you just got to win the next 2 and bam, you're in the top 8. Nice and easy.
Yeah, I mean, my issue is that winning 2 games means winning. You have to first win at least 1 game. So it's a little, it's a little uphill battle.
I'm sure you told us that you're in the process of packing up and moving. I'm sure you're moving this like lovely little trophy that's got your name on it. It says world champion. So you can't be too bad.
No, no, definitely not. So I'm not seeing Spike's hand here, so I'm not sure what this grief is seeing, but
Yeah, we're trying
this
to work on that in production, but behind the scenes.
this definitely seems like a I mean, just in the dark without knowing what's going on with this grief. I would say that this is probably like a decent situation for Spike because, you know, Arya doesn't actually have anything going on except for interaction. And so as long as Spike can get some amulets going and keep putting keep making threats that Arya has to answer, then it's a good spot for him.
I was going to say they're gonna be able to get double amulet this turn because obviously we can copy one with our land, but that looks like it was our only land. So now any bounce land, any Lotus is going to generate huge amount of mana. But off the top, Shardless Agent is going to be coming down with Force and Negation back up in Spike's turn if we even get there because we get to go looking again. We get a grief and
Yeah, that is
yeah.
backbreaking there. Finding that Charless agent, that's going to be game over. I think you know just again seeing Spike's hand being able to strip whatever's relevant in the next turn or two, plus all the interaction. One turn from now, like next turn, Force of Negation's up. One turn from now, Subtlety and Force of Negation are up. It's just going to be a lot to ask. Plus, just the inherent clock in play already anyway.
The thing with Living End is it's very good at finding like you've only got 8 ways to really find your living ends, right? To cascade
Yeah.
into them. But you've got so many cards in your deck that cycle through it. The odds of you hitting them are really, really high. Like, you know, what are you going to draw? You're going to draw a cycler. Cool, cycler. Oh, now I've managed to find one of my cascaders. And the odds are, I don't know the percentages. I have to ask good old Frank Carlson what the odds are of hitting your cyclers before you hit all your living ends. I imagine it's pretty low enough that that it doesn't happen a lot. Here we go. Here we can have a little look at what we're looking at with this grief. Looks like we've got double Lotus, Emrakul, Escape to the Wild, and a Colossus. Not Dreadnought. I was going to say Dreadnought then. That's definitely not in this format. Colossus Cultivator in hand. None of those cards are very good when you've got no land, though.
Right. I think there was a bounce land which is 4 mana, but those cards unfortunately cost 5 mana. And
There
yeah,
we
it looks
go.
like we're back up again. So yeah, those cards cost 5 mana. Spike actually can't do anything. This is just going to be attack you for near lethal, and I have 2 pieces of interaction. Very powerful. And yeah, like what you were saying about the cyclers, it's really hard to fight living end on the premise of I hope they don't draw a way to cast living end. Kind of a losing battle. But yeah.
Yep. Spike just right click concede, and we're going to see Aya taking this one down, going 2-1, advancing